very good afternoon and welcome to this edition of US 101's Visual Radio. Bringing you the news, I am Hashni Pathirana. And before we take a look at your news in detail, let's take a look at your headlines first.
News First headline.
Sri Lanka defends economic and human rights progress, criticizes selective focus. Elections key to national reconciliation, says India at UNHRC. Enhanced security protocols for presidential candidates. In international headlines, Ukraine's drones target Moscow. More than 30 airline flights suspended, says Russia. And in news sports, Rosemary Mayer back as New Zealand name experienced squad for T20 World Cup. And now your news in detail. Sri Lanka says that it is committed to constructive engagement with the UN Human Rights Council and various human rights mechanisms. Himali Arnatilaka, Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, expressed strong opposition to Human Rights Council Resolution 51 of 1, which mandated an external evidence-gathering mechanism without Sri Lanka's consent. Arnatilaka highlighted Sri Lanka's economic recovery following its worst economic crisis, noting significant improvements such as a 5.3% economic growth in the first quarter of 2024, currency appreciation, and a reduction in inflation from over 70% in September 2022 to 1.7% by June 2024. She emphasized that these measures have delivered tangible benefits to Sri Lankans. She acknowledged the short-term adverse impacts of budgetary restrictions on vulnerable segments of society, but stressed the importance of economic stability for the enjoyment of economic and social rights. Welfare measures, including the Aswasuma cash transfer program and the National School Nutrition Program, are in place to mitigate these efforts. Arnatilaka also outlined the government's efforts to address residual issues from decades of conflict, including rehabilitating ex-combatants, demining, providing reparations, and resettling the internally displaced. Initiatives such as the Office on Missing Persons and the Office for National Unity and Reconciliation aim to promote national unity and reconciliation. She criticized the UN Human Rights Commissioner's report for overstepping its mandate by commenting on macroeconomic and financial issues and failing to recognize Sri Lanka's progress. Arnatilaka reiterated Sri Lanka's rejection of Resolution 51-1, calling it unproductive and unwarranted, and urged the Council to avoid politicization and double standards. She noted that the upcoming presidential election on September 21st reaffirms Sri Lanka's commitment to democratic processes. We're still in local news. India hopes that the upcoming elections in Sri Lanka would further the cause of national reconciliation in the island nation. Now, Gaurav Kumar Thakur, councillor at the Permanent Mission of India, made these comments during the 57th session of UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. He reiterated India's steadfast support for Sri Lanka's relief, rehabilitation, resettlement and reconstruction efforts since 2009. Speaking at a recent session, Thakur highlighted India's multifaceted assistance, which totaled over $4 billion in 2022, aimed at helping Sri Lanka overcome its economic challenges. He also noted India's collaboration with the Sri Lankan government in finalizing debt restructuring discussions. Taking a look at more local news, the Ministry of Public Security has confirmed that the security of presidential candidates is being thoroughly ensured. The ministry is actively seeking continuous intelligence reports on potential threats to the candidates contesting the upcoming presidential election. Now, according to the ministry, security measures will be based on these intelligence reports. Detailed security assessments will be conducted a few days before any public rally involving presidential candidates. Additionally, the security of the area will be re-evaluated a few hours before the candidates' participation in the rally. The ministry emphasized that under this special security program, all necessary precautions are being taken to safeguard the presidential elections. Despite these assurances, Renuka Pereira, a representative of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa, noted that threats have been made against Namal Rajapaksa and Mahinda Rajapaksa.
International news.
Shifting our focus to the international news, Russian officials said today that they shot down at least 15 drones around Moscow overnight in a wave of attacks that set residential buildings on fire, killed a woman, and forced more than 30 flights in the capital to be suspended. Now, more than 60 drones were also drowned over Russia's southwestern region, which borders Ukraine and the Lipetsk region in South Russia's south, regional governors said. There was no damage or casualties reported there.
Sports news.
And now taking a look at your sports update for this hour. New Zealand will be boosted by the return of fast bowler Rosemary Mair for the Women's T20 World Cup 2024 after she suffered a back injury during their home series against England in March. Meanwhile, their captains Sophie Devine and Suzie Bates are set to play their 9th T20 World Cup when the competition begins in the UAE in October. Now, this means the two would have played in every edition of the T20 World Cup. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Yes 101's Visual Radio. I'm Harshni Patrana. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more of the very latest.